I'm not having any initial testimonial video. Straight away, I get into the leadership card introduction part of it, where people can join.
So we run a program at the beginning, right? Something.
I'm not having any initial testimonial video.
No, normal we have a card.
Just give me a minute. Part of it, where people can join.
I got an opportunity to attend a workshop on personal transformation organized by Leadership KARD. It was a wonderful learning experience for me from that program. The program was designed not only for working professionals for corporate, but the program was designed for professionals across industries. I was amazed to see the in-depth and rich experience and energy level from the coaches like Ram Ramakrishna, Kirandeep Sandhu, Ashish Datta, and Devesh Mohan. These four leaders take us through their own experience while delivering each and every module of the Leadership KARD program. The workshop was very interactive. There was an opportunity for every individual to share their own experience and challenges in their journey and get to hear the thoughts and various techniques and tools to address those challenges. Some of the interesting topics were leading self, SWOT analysis, goal setting, vision boards, and personal branding. One of the unique experience for me after attending this workshop was the continuity from the coaches. How they will continue to follow up with you, help you to continue to learn even after the workshop. Overall, it was a fantastic experience, and I wish Leadership KARD organization all the best and many more success in their upcoming workshops and trainings.
Leadership KARD is very close to my heart. Leadership KARD is a part of my professional success. My life, I can split before Leadership KARD, after Leadership KARD. After joining the Leadership KARD, I have improved a lot. How to handle the people, how to manage the team, how to handle the conflict management. Each and every situation, how to analyze this. I am applying this SWOT analysis. So each and I can say definitely is a continuous process, and also is a life learning experience. I got it from the Leadership KARD. And the important thing is every week they are taking the sessions. So keep on attending the session and motivate myself and keep on improving myself. The important thing is I'll get the personal attention from the each and every one of the leadership card things. Leadership card, they are the author of the book and they are the TEDx speakers. They are comes with the vast experience like management, CEO, CFO, the entrepreneur and the sales background and the communication specialist. They are the very good, they have the very strong credibility. So when I'm looking at the people, I'm getting inspired and I started joining the sessions and getting the benefit of the leadership card. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome all of you to this leadership card, the KARD hour, which is the knowledge sharing session, which happens on every Thursday from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Leadership card is the brainchild of this four individual, Karandeep Sandhu, Ashish Datta, Devesh Mohan, and myself. We took birth during the pandemic and we put an objective saying what is that we are going to do and what is that thing we bring in onto the table. It is unlocking the hidden potential. We believe leaders and entrepreneurs, they have huge amount of potential to take their career or a business to the next level. What they need is someone helping them to find out what is that needs to be unlocked so that they can achieve their dream and goal with ease. We are problem solvers. Someone has got some problem, so we are there with our practical experience, bring in how we can help them to solve their problem. It may be a career or a business growth, stagnation, which is a very common among the mid-level leaders. They find it difficult to take up and move up in the ladder. That is where we come in. Even in a business growth, all business owners start the business with a lot of enthusiasm, with known people. When you wanted to scale it up, you need that kind of a leadership skill, that kind of a thing. You need to work on it. That is what we help them to do it. Struggling to achieve the work-life balance, which I'm sure we all know, many of us, including us, we had gone through this work-life balance issues. How do you start working and prioritize the things and get going on? That is what we work on, these problems, as well as interpersonal conflict. Moment you call as a team, more than one person start working together, there is a lot of conflicts going to be there. I want this, you want that. So how do you manage that interpersonal conflict and deliver what ultimately the organization is looking for, as well as for your personal growth? So these are some of the areas we work as the problem solvers. Look at, divide into some of the things we work on. It is the leadership skill. We help the leaders to hone their leadership skill so that they can become as a more effective individual. As Ashish says, team is the successful, one of the things in the individual is successful as a team. You will become successful. How do you create those self-leadership part of it? Then effective team building. It's an important when you want to build the team. How do you work? There are a lot of things like team dynamics, communication, change management. In these areas, how do you work and bring that effective team building culture in the organization? The sales and alliances, those organizations looking for a program to upskill their sales team, we have these programs, we help them doing that. Coaching and mentoring. Once people go through certain basic courses, which I will explain it little later part of our presentation today. We take, then they think some specific area, group coaching may not be possible. They wanted to work with us as coaches or mentors to them. Then we have those programs through which we help them. Then the final one which comes in is the consulting. Your organization, which is 100 to 500 employees strength, always look forward to move up and grow their businesses. That is where we get into using the KARD framework and implementing the growth strategy. How do they work and what is that they can do on to that. Entire leadership, as Ashish Datta has put into his book, navigating that dark hole with a lot of uncertainty, challenges, and conflicts. That is what is going to be there when you work in a team, work in an organization, or you establishing an organization or a company, all going to be there. How do you navigate that dark hole is what we together work and help you in that direction, how we can move forward on that. Just to give us small statistics about what has been done in the last 26 plus months of leadership KARD in existence, we have done more than 200 plus experiential learning workshop. We call this an experiential learning because we spend good amount of a time people to practice what is that they have learned so that they can go back, implement the learning, couple of learnings immediately on their workplace. 15 plus consulting assignment we have done with the various organization on various capacities which is required for them to grow their businesses. Then this is as a community, we created a strong community. There is 7 books among the 4 authors is there, and some more books are also on pipeline that would come. So far, more than 1,500 plus inspiring quotes, which we have put in 150 plus articles and 1,000 plus videos. We communicate through video, various topics on leadership, which you can learn in a on the go and a short duration of 3 to 5 minutes and get going on. 250 plus leadership talks. We brought in 250 plus industry leaders and interviewed them, and that the podcast which was being done as well. There is a wealth of knowledge which is available as part of the leadership KARD community. Overall, more than 10,000 plus people we have impacted till date. And these are some of our clientele list. There are many more to come. Coming back to today's KARD award, which is the 1 minute. Let me just spotlight. So welcome to today's KARD award, which is the question and answers on organization culture. We all have a lot of questions on organization culture already. I got some of the questions from the audience, in the sense when we have sent the mails to them about this program, there are questions which has come. So here Ashish Datta is here to answer those questions. I may also pitch in some point of it and add some points which is there. Thank you, Ashish, for being here to answer these questions on the organization culture.
Yeah, hi Ram.
So Rekha is asking, when it comes to the freelancing, she's a freelancer, mostly the individual is associated with the client for a certain period. How should that freelancer from their own culture and guideline, and is it possible to understand the client's behavior and beliefs within a short period of time?
Well, that's a very interesting question from Rekha, and thank you for that. Now, when we talk of culture, it is about oneself. It could be the organization, or it could be a question of I'm a freelancer, Vika is, would be I can create my own culture. I have to create my own environment. Now, that could include many things. It could be your code of conduct, the way you will work, your working hours, the process that you will follow, what are your do's and don'ts. So you can define your own culture as you feel best. Now, when you have a culture, that's the way you want to work. It is not that you expect a client to follow your culture, because each one will have their own culture. However, from your perspective, you will have to ensure that there is a sync in terms of the way that you want to work with the client. Now it depends. It will be a short assignment or a long assignment, it would depend. You will have to make that assessment. If it is a very short assignment, you may not be that too much bothered about culture because it will get over. But with a long-term intervention, you'll have to look at your what the way you want to work and then talk to the client. My own advice to you in this situation would be, first define your own culture. What is your culture? What is the way you want to work? Which are different things. And before you take that assignment, have a discussion with the client. Set the right as I always say, set the right expectation in yourself. And I'm very sure you can make the assessment of, okay, this is the way I want to work with you. This is how it is. You will be able to assess the client, the way he talks, even when the pricing discussion. A lot of times when the client is more focused on the pricing, or then you have to make a call. Okay. More important, in that pre-contract discussion, the very important part that you have to understand is you have to understand which is the problem you want to solve. Now, that is not a question of a short term or long term, because the assignment is coming to you because you have a problem to solve. That must be very clear. If there is no problem, then so which problem you are going to solve? What is the task or way it is? And then how you are going to go about solving that problem? Set the right expectations. And I'm sure in a couple of discussions, you will get a feel of what it is and whether it makes sense for you to work with the client. As I said, for short-term assignment, you need not be so much worried. For the long term. But more important, the very first thing is, have you defined your own culture? Right? So culture varies, right, Ram? So you'll agree, correct? So culture could mean different thing to different people, right, Ram? I think you're on mute, Ram.
Yeah, Ashish, you are right. Exactly what you are saying is right. First is when you are wanted to work, you need to define in your own boundaries and culture what is that you wanted to work. I just wanted to pick up some names. Today, moment we call off this Metro Man, Sridharan, what comes to their mind? And he has put in, because he's an individual guy helping the people. He's not kind of a thing. He goes and helps as a consultant and doing things. And when he comes in, people know what he expects, right? He has built in, he has put in that thing, and very clearly, this is what it can happen. And you need to do that. In our own example, and we have been doing the training in one of the one of the organization we are doing, I don't want to name it. So when when myself, Kiran, and we all went, you also were there doing the training program. They said that they never open up their cameras. They don't want to do that. So what we made is, we made it very clear saying that, yes, our method of instruction and how we are going to conduct training program is a lot of things going to be participative. You need to be involved in those exercises and do that. Another thing is not going to be a one-way street. We made it. If you ask me, we made 100% success? No. We are making slowly a progress, and people are able to understand, saying that this is the way it is done. They started appreciating, as that is where it's important. You need to first put in your own, what are those things you wanted to, boundaries with which you wanted to work on. Even I remember a classic story of today. I'm not sure how many of you know this ID Mustafa. You can look at his videos, which is there in the Harvard and other thing he has done. One of the thing is he said there's one line of business. He said that he will not do it because of his own values. Even though it was giving crores and crores of rupees, he stood firm. And that is where you define as an individual, as a owner of the company, as the thing. First, what are those boundaries with which you wanted to work? Then people understand and start appreciating it slowly.
Yeah, very true, Ram. The key thing for Rekha would be first, have you defined your own culture? It is not something that is in your mind. It must be very clearly written down. And also another thing that I'd advise is also because you are a freelancer, you work with different clients. Write down the criteria on which you'll assess whether you would like to work with the customer, with the prospect or not. That is the very first thing. If you're clear in your mind, you can decide. You can send out a Google form or you can have a pre-event to get a feel of the person and then take it forward from there. So it is more about you. Have you defined your culture? And have you also defined the criteria on which you'll evaluate whether you're going to work with somebody or that is very important. Because in your case, not one client. In an organization, you're dealing with the same people. Here you're dealing with different people. So I think that's the key. If you are clear about that, the assessment shouldn't take much time for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I see the next question is asked by Kiran. She is there. Kiran, would you like to ask the question? You had sent it to us in the mail. You wanted to ask us the question now?
So my question was that when in organizations where people start feeling that I am not feeling valued, and people are not happy about my success, and it's not a top-down organization because my organization is slightly different. It's more to do with volunteers who are working on a common project. So there is no money that is being given to people, but it's about making them feel valued. And when they don't feel valued, then they leave. So here the question commonly comes. Now it's not a typical organization, but within still it is an organization, and I'm trying to build a culture of trust and growth among the team members. So I would like some suggestions on how can we really, build a feeling of value in this organization where there is no money.
Yeah, thanks, Kiran. Today I'm being stumped with very difficult questions because this is a very tough one. And in a corporate organization, it's easier, but in a voluntary organization where it's all voluntary on people, it becomes that much more difficult. Like even Ram, in Toastmasters, we have the same problem because people are volunteers. And I believe in this case, if you are a volunteer, my question would go back to the fact of, again, something very similar to what I said. First, in any organization, there has to be proper leadership at the top, which builds that, whatever the culture you want. Now, I'll come to that, what culture can you build? But that could vary from person to person. So the first question is, have you set up and defined the culture? That is very important. You need very, very strong leadership. Because it's a voluntary organization, that's one. If the culture has been defined, which could mean the code of work, the ethics, and all other which you think are important to you, the next point I would say then would be to look at again the fact of whom you're taking as your volunteer. Do that person meet those criteria? That's the second part. And the third part, there will always be interpersonal issues. For that, the leadership have to continuously keep working on setting what I call the ground rules, setting the right expectations, constant awareness. So these would be my three at the high level. So the first point is, has the culture been defined? What is that culture you're looking for? Because interpersonal issues, people feeling bad and not feeling appreciated is pretty common. Now, that is what to define how you appreciate. So it goes back to again the point of what is culture to you. That could vary from people to people. So that is very important. How you set up that culture and has it been done? And if you set up the culture, when you are taking volunteers, has that been evaluated properly as to what kind of volunteers you're taking? Second, and there is continuous awareness, constant push, constant awareness, because here you need very strong leadership because it's a non-profit and not non-profit, voluntary organization. You need very, very strong leadership on the ground. That is my three aspects on which I would see this case, because there will be issues, there will be where people don't feel appreciated, but it is a voluntary organization. That is where you need very, very hands-on leadership over there. Similarly, we are in Toastmasters, as Ram knows. You need very strong leadership. You have to talk to individual people, make them understand, get them together, because it's all very voluntary. So define culture, decide whom you're going to take as your volunteers, even if they're willing to. And then you have to have on the ground very strong leadership to keep constantly creating that awareness. It would be my suggestions. Ram, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, that is absolutely right. Even it is either it's a voluntary organization or any organization, we had seen ourselves when a leader comes in, things changes. I worked in an organization where at the top level, leadership is always shouting and yelling at the people. But you see everywhere in the organization, you see a department level and individual level, people will always have that conversation like that. And immediately after that, my first employment was like that. The second employment, when I went into, it was a Swedish organization, and where everything is an open door and people were friendly and moving around and other thing. And you can see that this is the culture which they wanted to work. There is no kind of a thing, no, I have to do my own work. I'm not going to have the peons and assistants to do that. And that is the way things have been changed. That is where the leader makes the difference. That is where I had seen many times in organizations, CEO changes, people start observing how the CEO start acting and working on it. Similarly, what you said is right. You need to find, this is also even Jack Welch says in his book as well, saying that we need to find the right kind of the leader, put them in place, right kind of a people for the right job. You put them, and after that, rest is easy to bring in, and you need to do that. Yes.
I think even so, for a voluntary organization, where it's all in an organization is still bound by certain rules, but in a voluntary organization, you have to have very hands-on, very strong leadership at that level. You can't let only processes drive it. So it's even more challenging. So more so, voluntary needs a lot of attention, a lot of hard work,
Yes.
because it is voluntary.
I have that. I'll just follow up on that. I agree on the culture part. Now, the question also there arises. There are past rivalries now, which are not related to the organization, but people are bringing their own issues and feeling that they are not valued. Now, I mean, I agree that the leadership has to be strong. I agree that it has to be a one-on-one relation. I agree that we have to constantly create awareness. But the past bickering is something that is becomes hard for us to address because it's a past experience that they are bringing here. So what should be done to ensure that we can still move on as a team, because they're all valuable people who are adding and contributing to the organization as a whole.
That is very true even in organizations. You have personal animosity, people don't like each other, and they have baggages that they work with. So it is very common in all across. It is not one thing that is only for such organization. That is very common. The question at the end of the day is you have two people who don't like each other, and you as the leader have to, first of all, you have to, they may not like each other. That you can't do anything about it. That's not in your control. But what is in your control is you must work according to the way that each one would like to. If they are creating a problem that comes into the effect of how you want to run it, I think that's where you have to run interference, and that's true for any organization. But I don't think personal animosity has anything to do with culture. Personality I can have with anybody for that matter, even in an organization.
So I shouldn't take it as that the culture of the organization
No,
is wrong.
not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so it's
Not
their
at all.
own
I may not like
animosity.
somebody, they may hate each other, but as long
Yeah.
as there's a work and ground rules which are doing, I'm good with it. Because
Okay.
the organization cannot take responsibility for personal feelings of person. The culture is for each individual, we are doing our best, we are helping them to grow, we are giving the right environment. Still, if that person wants to have an animosity, that's personal between them because it is not created by the organization and it is not affecting the organization. If it affects, yes, that's a cultural issue that has to be addressed. But to say that because of person animosity and the baggage, that is the culture of doing something with the culture, I don't think there's any connection unless it is affecting work.
Yeah, just I wanted to add a point to that. As I have seen a lot of this mergers and acquisition from different, what happens is always there's a company which is acquiring another company. Acquiring company has got always an upper hand. This is where I manage a lot of time. This kind of a situation used to come. One of the things which had helped in this organization, what I used to do is get them into the right kind of that team building activities and exercise, make them understand why working as a team is most important than me having my own agenda of saying I'm a big guy or you're a big guy kind of a thing. That is the one thing which is immensely has helped me in multiple organizations. First thing I have done is taking them together and putting them together, discuss, and with the kind of, there are a lot of those team exercises which would help them to realize it may be a simple yet powerful things that can bring in. That is where we have to open their mind up, and they need to understand, saying that they are here, one common purpose, need to work together.
No, and I would like to, okay, I'll come back to this point being discussed because Bausa would like to ask a question. After I've taken Bausa's question, I'll talk a little more about that. Yes, Bausa.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir, very much.
Thank you so much. In fact, I'm driving my car and yes, I can ask question.
Yeah,
So
please
my
go ahead.
question is mainly associated with the opinion about the resistance and what are the techniques to break that kind of resistance and have the acceptable and convincing situation. Over to you.
Break what? Resistance.
Yes.
Yeah. See, there are two very distinct aspects that we must keep in mind. The very first thing is, and let's take a fact that there are interpersonal issues, there are problems, there are politics in the organization. Now, is that culture? Is the first question. So to me, culture is a little different. Every organization has politics. Every organization has interpersonal issues and problems. Now, on a resistance basis, again, it comes back to two major aspects. It is some individuals are doing, or it's a general practice that people can just resist and get away with anything. That's the question. So is it a question of an individual having a resistance, or also is it a general trend that people don't want to do?
It is a general trend. It is a complete resistance in the organization.
Yeah, there's a complete resistance in the organization. It is there. So have you accepted
तांदूळ
this?
घेऊन ये.
Yeah. So the question is, goes back to if it's a general resistance, what has your management done about it?
Sir, can you please repeat?
I asked if you say that's a general resistance, which it is wide across, and if it is continuing like that, my question to you is that what has your organization done about it? Or your
So
management?
most of the yes, most of the times, whenever say we have a different groups and different groups, they are having the scientist and technical staff. Okay, there was a duration.
We lost him, I think, traveling.
Yeah, he's traveling, but I think I got the question. So the point here is that if it is a very continuous thing, and then that's why the management and leadership plays a very important role. So if it has been happening as a regular practice, everybody
Those
can.
proposals were like it was very approval, internal approval to or so internal approvals. Getting the internal approvals was like a frictional thing, and getting that proposal or say project conveys to the authorities was a bit difficult. It was like the 1 year back situation. Now it has become it has completely streamlined, and whatever we are preparing, we understood the overall concept and we are preparing proposals, and those proposals are very easily getting approved as compared to the last year situation.
So what really changed?
Maybe the scientist understood the overall vision and mission of the organization and what exactly leadership is intending, and based on that, scientists have aligned themselves, and accordingly they have started preparing the proposals and getting the internal approvals. But
Yeah.
yes, internal resistances are still there. Maybe say group head level, or maybe say project management head level, or at the top level.
If it is deep rooted, Sabausa, if it is a practice going on for long, it will take time to change. But the pressure of the change must come from the top in such cases. But it will take time, as you said. Like, if you will agree with me overall, if you talk about work ethics today, is better than what it was before in general. I'm talking whether it's private or public. People are understanding and changing because that push must come from the leadership. You should not accept it as it is. And if you think that's changing, it will take time because people are used to it.
Yes, very true. And let me share you one thing. I have very recently read Just Listen book.
Yeah.
And in that book, author have mentioned few of the psychological techniques to overcome such kind of resistance.
Okay.
If a person is resisting to other person, then what are the techniques to bring down his triggered point to the lower level, and then talk to the person by convincing him or asking him to put me in his shoes and see from that angle. So those kind of techniques they have suggested. So it may be for one technique, or say, and can it be applicable to the overall situation?
You're very right. So it has to be at a very individual level for each person, why they're doing like this. If you can find out that why, you will be able to find a solution. But again, if it is an individual or a certain small group, you can do it. But if it is large scale, it is an organization issue in terms of work culture. And that's a big problem. You cannot do alone, you cannot do much unless there is a push. And if you say that things have changed because there is an outlook change from the top, it will definitely take some time. But if you're saying it's general and routine and everybody, it's a widespread problem, I doubt if alone you can do much, even if you understand that person.
Yes. If it is a organizational culture, then an individual employee cannot do much. But if it is one-on-one, then individual candidate has to work out on it, learn the technique, and then talk to each other. That is the means communication is the best option.
Yeah, you can try your best. At the individual level, you might get a little success if it is individual, but at overall level, it has to be coming from the top, from the organization, from the leadership. That must come from the top. And in such cases, like like, how do you enforce culture? That question always comes, right? Or when you want to do something new, or you want to change something. And I strongly believe first you have to put fear in them. You have to force them first. When you force them to do it, because nobody does on their own, in then they will understand the benefits of that. Actually, it is for their benefit. So now the
Very
question
true.
is, not many organizations can push in that way. It is not that easy, as I say, but that's a problem you have to deal with. And I believe overall, the leadership today understands it is slowly changing. I would say, be it the public sector, be it the private sector, and organizations where people today Ram wrote an article on functional boss and administrative. I had the same problem. The administrative was to just shout at everybody.
Yes.
But the other part of that interesting relationship was everybody respected him because he was always there for them. He was helping them. But whenever he sees and people then accepted it. But then what happens when new people started coming in, they felt very bad. Old timers understood that person. So people have stayed for 10 to new and understood that person and they accept why they're doing it. But the new people had a big problem with that. And finally, he had to leave the organization. Because
Yes.
nobody's going to accept that. That's the whole point. So the leadership has to play a big role. Even I have had cases where a leader was not doing what that person was not doing or doing something which that person not supposed to. It is creating problem. Then what happened was the group went to the boss, to the leader, and immediately action was taken. So it's a very complicated exercise because going on for long and nobody is saying something, it will take time to do. And but the top push must come from leadership. It's not easy. You alone cannot do anything.
Yes, very true. And it happens during that situation of the say example project or change happened in the organization, like forming, storming, norming, and performing. Storming stage, we face lots of resistance, especially.
Yeah, that is very normal in any project because you need time to understand each other. Then it comes to a normal. That is normal for anything. That's okay. But when you're talking about the culture, if it is a resistance, I won't do it and nobody will say anything to me. That's a problem, I would say. Really, that's a big problem that will have to be looked at from a very different angle because that's not easy to solve.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, because, again, well, I am not giving a satisfactory reply, but the reality of the situation is I don't want to give a response which is just theoretical. The fact is it must be a concerted effort at the leadership level if you really want to bring a change at the organization level. Because if the push is not coming, you alone cannot do anything. Now, then it depends on the individual. Okay, I'm accepting it. I'm continuing to stay here. Well, that's your choice. But the fact is, it must come from the top. It's not that easy. Everybody is interconnected. It's a larger game to play.
Adding
I
to this,
Very
remember
another
true.
thing, adding to this, I would say you need to slice and dice. Basically, instead of generalizing things, it is what overall it is there. Moment you start slice and dice and start looking at what is in it for me, each one of them will have a different thing. You started looking at things will change because there are many moments when you bring in a lot of changes, there is always going to be resistance. People will say on the look of it, it thinks that resistance is everywhere there. But when you slice and dice, you will find out each one has got a different expectations on that change on what is that you wanted to do. At a leadership level, the expectation may be totally different. At the middle level, the expectation is totally different. At the lower level, it is completely at the bottom of the pyramid, it is different. But if you are able to understand slice and dice and understand and start working on it, that is what it will help. As he said, it's a long exercise. It is not going to just shortcut answers are there. And you need to look at it and zero in on it. It is like any electricity circuit, if it, what you do, isolation you do, right? Start
Yes,
looking
very
at
true.
one by one and by switching off all the MCCBs and start putting in one by one and look at where is that real problem is. That is the thing we need to start identifying it. That takes really a lot of time.
Very
Yeah.
true.
In fact, Bausa, I'll quickly add to that because Rekha also has a question, which is that I had a bank where I had a public provident fund account, PPF, correct? Here, and I have to be back in a minute, Ram. I'll be back in one.
No problem. We'll ask by the time Rekha has got a question.
Shall I ask?
Yes, Rekha. We answered your first question, but you can look at the recording which is there in YouTube.
Okay, then I missed it. Sorry. My question is, I'm a freelancer, so if it is a short-term project, obviously I'll be completing that work and delivering it. But if it is a long-term project, how will I know about the culture of the client or the company? Because it will ultimately affect my work also. So what are the points that I have to look for so that I'll know the culture of their team and the company that is that I'm working with? Pinpoint aspects that I have to look into. Because in freelancing, what happens? Mostly it is online and we are staying at different places. We don't meet face to face much. So how should I know about there is lots written and said, but then individually, how far they are following? How should I know that? Can you give me some points to know about the culture of the company or the client they are maintaining?
So thank you, Rekha, for that question. Mike, I'll ask a counter question to you. Why are you bothered about the culture of the other company?
Not other company, the company that I'm working with, or the client.
No, that's what I mean. Why are you bothered about their culture? Because to me, you have a culture, which is you have defined your own culture and the criteria on which you'll work, correct?
Right.
You have to define, because you are a freelancer, you define, this is the way I'm going to work, this is what I expect. And when I take my clients, I'll evaluate based on that criteria. It doesn't matter what is the client. See, if the prospect is such that doesn't meet your work, you won't work with that person. It has nothing to do with the other person. It is more about you, because you don't control the culture of the other company. And in your case, you work with multiple organizations because you're a freelancer. So what is important here is that, have you defined your culture? Have you defined a criteria on which you will decide whether to work with the prospect? Because there'll be some thinking in terms of the way you want to work. I call it culture. So if you have done that and if you will evaluate, irrespective of what is the culture, it doesn't really matter, because they have to fall in line and work with you, because there must be an expectation setting at the beginning. And based on you will do that assessment. If that's done, I think that's all you're concerned with. What is that culture in the organization really shouldn't matter to you.
And you also mentioned earlier, Rash, is that one right now. What is the problem you are going to solve? So they have a problem. That is the reason they are coming into you. Focus more on what is that problem you are going to solve to them.
Okay.
Yeah, it is up to you have to define it. So it has nothing to do with the client or your prospect. It is dependent. You define the criteria and you are able to assess how to work with the client by setting the right expectation. I think we are good. You don't need to much be concerned about what the culture is bad and it doesn't sync with yours. I'm sure you won't work with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll go back to the question about Saib. I think the very interesting question, Ram, and you'd also concur with me that what I have seen is, I have been to a bank. We had a public provident fund account, and it was a hell of a problem to get a draft done. Those days we have to get the draft done. I'm talking of the 80s. 1986 to 90. You have to get the draft done. So one person will write the draft. Even it is taken from the computer, second person will check everything with your, I have to fulfill the form. Then the third person again check and form. It's easily 2 to 3 hours that you have to wait to get a draft. And one day, I think some of us complained, and that they stopped work full day. Because how can you complain? These are procedure and all. Cut the chase, after 7, 8 years, when I went, because I had completed my term, I think there was a term PPF, so I had to close that account. When I go there, those people had gone, new set of people had come. In 5 minutes, my work was done. So it also varies with people, how they are brought up. If I am brought up in such a way, their upbringing plays a very important role. Young people have come in, I saw, their outlook is different. How does that outlook change? It comes from the whole environment that I'm brought up, and whole thought process I am brought up. And that's where the organization, when somebody comes into the organization, it is extremely important to do the right orientation. Because if you don't do that, they have to set, because diverse people have diverse thoughts, how they have to work together. It is not about liking each other or hating, does it? This is the point. Because culture is, again, the point is about culture is, what is culture? To you and me is different. For me, it's a feeling that I'm feeling good, which means I have to give the right work and infrastructure. I have to give the do's and don'ts that everybody has to follow. And if I don't follow, I have to enforce them. I have to set the right expectation. This is how I'm going to follow, how you're going to enforce. And I, as a leader, have to walk the talk. If I don't do it, then the culture will not be. It's a very concerted whole effort. And to all these problems, I go back to my leadership philosophy. First, set the right expectation. The mental, I call it, I wrote in my book also, mental setup would be, there'll be problems every day, except everything to go wrong. You're better prepared. That's that mental frame, is very important to set up. And that's where leaders have to play a big role. Culture doesn't come like that. Even if it's not a founder or manager, it goes down, each one has to build it up.
Yeah. Good. I think great questions today, and I'm sure the viewers definitely got benefited out of these answers, what we provided. And it's a vast topic, as you said. It's not, a culture is not something you can build overnight or in a short span of time. It requires a lot of thought, and we need to work together and do that. So let me move on quickly to put it on how we can help as a leadership card for people who are interested in unlocking their hidden potential. As we said initially, how we help people unlock their hidden potential. This is the thing we have. It's all basically you understanding self. It starts with understanding self. You need to get into that. That is where we have these modules: personality assessment, SWOT, mindset, and 360-degree feedback, Zohari window, and niche kind of areas which you understand. Then leading self. You start looking at how do you, as a leader, you lead yourself. That part of it we cover: the self-leadership framework, goal setting, priority, how to be resilient. Then comes in the leading teams. You can start working on organization. Basically, it starts with organization culture building. We'll discuss more in detail about that in that part of it: change management, gender diversity and inclusion, problem solving, and decision making. Then comes in as the leading organization, wherein work on those conflict management, team dynamics, effective negotiation, and business etiquettes. This starting next month, that is from November, we will have these courses ready. We have already done all these courses on online. Now we are putting it everything as a self-paced learning. Level 1, understanding self. You will do that. Leading self and leading team and leading organization is the level 2. And the level 3 is we are coming up with a thing. People who are interested, thinking that they can't invest individual coaches, we are trying to give a group coaching sessions to them, monthly group sessions. Then as part of that, level 1 and level 2 will be there. And finally, the level 4, it is the individual coaching or mentoring. People would like to take it up, they can opt for that. That is where we work. All is going to be on a virtual mode. Apart from that, we keep doing various cities in-person program as and when the requirement arises and comes in. That's also we keep doing it. For the organization, we have the customized workshop. We already have been working with multiple organizations on a customized workshop for them, and consulting through the KARD framework. We do that. When it comes to the working on the organization need, understanding assets, that is where we start working on understanding them, then confirm and clarity through various other discussions which we have, and we do that. Then we move on, identify and finalize what are all those skill gap, what is the training which is required, then finalize those training needs. And also when someone comes, and it's not that everything they can do as overnight, we give them the short, what is that they need to start working on immediately, and midterm and long term, so that in a sustainable manner, they're able to do the things, follow up and training for the success. The consulting which we do as a KARD framework, health check, agile implementation, and the real-time transformation is the method which we take in. Thank you very much for each one of you joining here in person, as well as those of you watching on the YouTube. We come from with 100 plus years of experience, worked in diverse field. India and global work experience is what we bring in. KARD works as the principle of knowledge, accomplish, reflect, and develop. We focus on leadership training, leadership coaching, and leadership mentoring. For more details, you can get in touch with us. The mobile number is provided, or the email ID. As we said, we help people unlocking their hidden potential to realize their dream. Thank you and good night.